Hello, and welcome to Wisdom and Productivity, the podcast of Dr. Efraín Martinez. Let me fix my hair here a little bit so puedo salir bonito. I am a school principal in search of wisdom so I can best serve my community. As part of this show, I interview luminary figures as I believe humanity can be better if they learn from them. In essence, the purpose of this podcast is to learn about the side B of the luminary figure, meaning what makes them be who they are. It is also an opportunity to express gratefulness for the perhaps even more luminary figures that inspired the interviewee. Today, I have the great honor of interviewing Raúl Gastón, a principal in Illinois and the president-elect of the Illinois Principal Association, Boricua like me. How are you, Raúl?
Oh, muy bien, muy bien. Ready to get something going here.
Awesome. So glad. How was your break? Was it good?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, finally rested a little, relaxed a little, did a lot of things around the house that needed to get done. So took advantage of the time.
Awesome. Isn't that great when we have time to do home and our personal stuff?
Exactly.
Beautiful.
It's important to dedicate some time to some of those things too.
Fantastic. So let's go with these important questions. The first important and most important question, Raúl Gaston, who are you?
Who am I? Well, that's a loaded question, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm just a Puerto Rican kid that grew up in the city. Moved to Chicago when I was just before middle school didn't exist in Chicago, right? But I grew up in Humboldt Park, and I moved to Chicago when I was around eighth grade. So I experienced eighth grade in Chicago at Lafayette, and then I went on to high school at Clemente High School, and grew up in that area. And just a Puerto Rican kid trying to figure out what I wanted to do with life. And somewhere in my high school journey, I wanted to become a teacher. And soon enough, I decided that that's the route I wanted to take, and became a Spanish teacher for a number of years. And in that trajectory, decided that I wanted to go into administration, and here I am as a principal. So not sure how if I ever envisioned myself as a principal. Way back when I was, one of those boricuas in Humboldt Park eating, a pastelillo or something at the festival. Never thought I'd be saying that I'm going to be a principal one day, but definitely wanted to be in education. And so that's been my professional journey, and it kind of says a little bit about who I am in some respects.
Thank you. Let me ask you two follow-up questions. The first one, when you move as a child, you said you moved in eighth grade, right?
hmm
Is there one or two things that you remember that were completely different from the schools in the island, on the
Well,
island?
yeah. There's definitely a lot of differences. In Puerto Rico, we all wear uniforms in public schools, and here we don't. Not typically, anyways, and not at least not in that time. So we all wear uniforms. The way the school set up, at least the schools that I went to, can't speak for all of the island, but the schools that I went to, it's the hallways are outdoors. The classrooms are indoors and hallways are outdoors. So you travel outside because it's warm year round. So you don't need interior hallways. Also, the teachers travel. The kids stay put in one room, and the teachers travel around from room to room. So very different experience growing up. Little did I know that I'd be doing that in COVID years and making teachers travel instead of kids. But it brought back memories to I remember doing this as a kid and having the teachers travel and come see me. And that's actually what we did for COVID, right? In many areas. So it's very typical to see that. And definitely the differences, a lot, I went from, being comfortable with language and communicating and being able to communicate with others to being very hesitant to say anything because I didn't want to say it the wrong way, or say it incorrectly. So it took a while to progress from a number one supersize with a Coke. And I had that down. But beyond that, I couldn't tell you anything, not much else in English. So it took some time to get there. Those are the challenges when I came over there were big differences, as well as Humboldt Park is not known for its high safety. So it took some time for me to get to know what areas you're okay in and what areas not a good idea. And no vaya para allá, no.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it
Thank
took
you
a
for
little while to
sharing
get
that.
used to the culture and the realities of the neighborhood.
Thank you for sharing that. I can empathize with the experience of the language. I was much older when I came. I was 18, but it is a struggle that not everybody can understand, and I
Hmm.
appreciate that you shared that. Let me ask you a follow-up question. What would you say was the moment, or do you remember the moment you said, "I want to be a principal," and what was the reason?
Um, I'll tell you the one of when I wanted to be a teacher. And that leads into then the principal down the road. I wanted to become a teacher. I used to work part time at uh, when I was a student in high school. Driver's ed. I remember that we all had driver's ed right at some point. But we had these simulators that were at Wells High School. I used to work from Clemente to Wells and take the driver's ed simulator and just push papers around basically and helped out, get the cars, fuel them, that kind of thing. So just a student aid helping out. And one day there was a storm and the teachers could not go out and take the kids out driving because there was a storm. A couple of teachers couldn't make it. So the teacher that's in charge, Mr. Clemente, I still am in touch with Mr. Clemente, believe it or not, all these years later. But Mr. Clemente is like, well, we can't take the kids out because we don't have enough teachers. So we're going to have to cancel uh, sessions for kids. And I said, well, why don't you guys go out and do sessions and I'll run the simulator. And you're supposed to be a teacher. Here I am, 16 years old, only have my driver's permit, don't even have my license yet, let alone I'm not a teacher. But I've seen it enough times and heard the teachers teach it enough times that I felt comfortable enough to teach the stuff, right? So I told them, I'll take care of the simulators, you take the kids out driving. And so I got up in front of a bunch of kids, all 15, 16 years old, same, some of them in my classes, and said, I'm your teacher today. I'm going to teach you the simulator part, and you guys are going to follow directions on what to do. And they all kind of started laughing. And I said, look, you got two choices. You're either going to learn it with me, or you can do the makeup session on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. And they're like, you go, Raúl, you teach. And that was it. I was hooked. I was hooked on teaching. I got to do it. I got to teach. I got to do the say the same things that the teachers are saying. I just kind of followed their script, even though I didn't have a piece of paper in front of me. I just knew what they would always say at certain sections because I always had to pause it for them so that they could say what they needed to say. So I just taught based on what they modeled for me. And so once I got hooked on teaching, that's what I wanted to do. And it was years later when I was a teacher that I saw what an assistant principal did. And I'm like, I don't want that job. I have no interest in being that guy, being that assistant principal. I have no interest in that. But then I saw what a principal did at another district. And I said, that's what I want to do. Actually, he was an assistant principal, but I'm like, that's what I want to do. Working with staff, working with kids, curriculum, all those pieces that were just really intriguing to me. And I said, okay, so not every assistant principal does this, but a lot of assistant principals do this, and that's what I was interested in. So it opened up my eyes that education has so many facets and so many pieces and moving pieces that's what got me then hooked into administration. So yeah, it's wild. I never thought I'd be in this position.
For the listeners of the show, what a robust answer. Thank you. Oh, I can envision the whole thing. Thank you for sharing that, Raul. I appreciate it. My next question for you is, if you could go back in time, like in Back to the Future, what is one or two things you will tell yourself in any of the positions you have held in your professional life?
What would I tell myself? I would definitely tell myself to persevere, to continue. You're gonna be all right. There's plenty of opportunities. There are no real bad errors or bad mistakes. You can only learn from those. And when you've made a mistake, every time I've made a mistake, I've had people around me to support me and help me, make a better decision in the future. And that has sustained me. I know that if I make an error in judgment or whatever, I can always rely on others to help me out. And at first, that's scary. At first, that's something that you fear, that you're the principal. You're supposed to know all the answers. You're supposed to be the one in charge. And there are many times that I'm like, I don't know the answer to that one. Let me go find out. And so it's just reassuring to I would tell myself it's okay. Give yourself a little grace and give yourself a little time, and you'll get to the right spot.
So let me follow up question. Thank you again for your awesome answers. How do you think the role of the principal has evolved with the pandemic?
Wow, it's changed a lot, hasn't it? Definitely, I see us a lot more involved with parents than ever before. We always, pride ourselves on doing these functions and activities and come into the band concert and the orchestra concert and the basketball game and say hello to parents as they come in, parent teacher conferences, all the events that we have that are just part of the cycle of a year. We've always had those, right? And always had those contacts and those phone calls, that when they're not happy about something or really excited about something, we get a few of those too. But this year, since a lot of those opportunities have been minimized over the last 18 months to 20 months, we've had very few opportunities for that. It's become a lot more challenging to engage parents in that realm. It's definitely changed how we communicate with parents. They're looking for information, so whether it's things like Twitter, Facebook, newsletters, weekly newsletter, bulletins, anything that we can send out, because they're hungry for information and they want to stay connected in some capacity. So we got to find other ways. I know that when I do my newsletter, I have 440 students in my school. When I send out my newsletter, I get anywhere from 700 to 900 hits weekly. And so that's just parents want to know. They want to be connected. So it's either both parents are going in or one parent's going in multiple times. So and they want to get the information of what's going on in school. What are my kids experiencing? How do we stay connected to things? So that's been a huge change that I've seen over the last year when it comes to being a principal. Also, the visibility in the school and in the classroom. I'm always one that teachers get used to me after a while, that I'll sit in the back of the room and answer emails just so that I'm not in my office, so I can be in the back of the room. Is not to necessarily take notes or know what teachers are doing or evaluation. It's nothing like that. It's just literally I don't want to sit in my office for 4 hours, answering emails and that kind of stuff. I can answer an email in the back of a math class or a science classroom and see what's going on. And then kids see me and they can't help but say, hi, Mr. Gastón. And they want to say hi to you, like you're a celebrity or something. I'm like, hi.
Yes.
But you got to get out there, and I'm trying. That's become harder. It's become harder to do that because you have so many phone calls and emails to answer and people trying to get a hold of you. It's become harder to get into the classroom. And I used to be really good about that. And this year it's been tougher. It's been tougher to do that regularly. I do that once in a while, but not. I used to do that almost daily, where I'd be out in at least 15, 20 classrooms a day. And now I'm maybe doing 15 a week, if that. So
Thank you for sharing that. It's refreshing to hear authentic voices from peers, because the principalship can be one of the loneliest positions, and when we get to learn from each other, we can only be stronger. Thank you for sharing that.
mhm.
Raúl, I have a question for you, a broad one. Who do you learn from?
uh, Well, there are a lot of things that you can use to learn from, obviously, from colleagues. I'm part of a PLN, which is a group of middle school principals that are part of DuPage County, and we meet, quarterly or so. Of course, IPA, I got involved with IPA because I wanted to really connect with other principals. So I always learn from them and what's next on the things coming on the horizon. So I'm always learning from them. Of course, others in my own district, but also, reading books. We just did a book study in our our building, we led a book study with which Teach Like a Pirate, and I read that one as a faculty and did some activities with that. There are a couple of them that I always gravitate to, like Anthony Muhammad is a good author. I really like him, and there are several others, that are really good resources, and you just kind of pick up what you can where you can. Right now, I have one that's sitting under a little nightstand over here that I haven't started yet, but it's El Español en los Estados Unidos, and that's another book study that one of our district coaches put together for all the Spanish speaking people in our district. And so it was so refreshing, even though I don't have to do this. It's not necessarily for an administrator, it's more for the teachers. I wanted to join it just because I wanted to talk in Spanish, professional Spanish, if that makes sense. Being able to talk to others about the educational world in another language. I haven't done that since I was a department chair at York, where I got to talk about the profession of education in Spanish. So to me, that was interesting. I'm the only guy in the group, so I'm the token. But it's okay. I really do enjoy conversing with them and having those conversations with them about, how do we reach the Hispanic population, the Spanish speaking population, the nuances of all that, and what does language really reflect, in the United States, especially Spanish. So very refreshing. So those are my learning opportunities.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. This is why the listeners of the show love this show, because we get to learn that side B of what makes this individual great. And that's a great example. Joining book clubs, not necessarily a requirement of what admin is supposed to be reading, but also something that can illuminate the way you do things and practice that native tongue. And that as you practice is also beneficial for students, because they're going to get that benefit from you and your teachers. Thank you, Raul, for that answer. My next question is, who is or who are your biggest influences?
I'm going to start with family. I am definitely going to start with family. My wife has been a huge supporter of everything I've ever wanted to do. We actually went to college together. We did it originally to save money on books because we only had to buy. We both ended up in education. We both wanted to be teachers, and so we went to Harold Washington College and bought one book and shared it. And so that saved us a lot of money. You know how expensive books can be, especially college kids on a budget. And so we saved money that way. And then when we went to Eastern, same thing. We took classes together, became built-in study buddies. She would help me with English, and I would help her with math. You can see where the needs are and how we differentiated for each other. But that's how we went through college together, helping each other out. So it created that environment, and then everything professionally, everything I've done has been, I want to go into administration. Okay, what do you need? How are we going to get there? How are we going to pay for it? All those things. And she's always been very supportive when we adopted our daughters. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Is this for us? How are we going to do it? It's just been a great partnership between the two of us. And so I got to start with her. And of course, my parents, my mom, my dad, family, and I can't leave out my current superintendent. I'm just going to throw him in there, and I know he's going to be like, but I'm going to throw in my current superintendent. I've made my share of mistakes. I've made my errors, and he's always come back and said, well, how are we going to do this differently next time? And he always gives me that opportunity to correct it, and never one of those situations of, that's it, you're out of here, see ya. It's always been like, how can we grow from this? So because he has that growth mindset, it's allowed me to do more things and be able to continue to expand as a professional. So those have been key
What's
people.
the name of the superintendent?
My superintendent is Anthony Palmasano, Dr. Palmasano. So here in District 45. So I always got to throw a plug in for him for that reason, because I could have done better. a couple of times, or maybe a
All of us,
dozen times,
right?
maybe 2 dozen. I don't know. I lost track.
Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. Please tell your spouse, your parents, and your superintendent that you have influenced people like me. So thank you so much. My next question, as you know, being successful includes being on top of our productivity, but this can mean so many different things to different people. So, what does this productivity means for you, and what advice do you have for the listeners of the show?
Well, productivity can be, a lot of different things. Like I just mentioned a while ago, this weekend being able to catch up on a few things here at home, get things off of my list, things to do, was great. And I do that every summer. Every summer I have a project that I want to do, and so I try and give some time for home so that you can be more productive at work. If you let home not get done, it really catches up with you. So even a couple weeks ago, took my daughter to Southern Illinois University. She wants to go to Southern for college. She wants to go into psychology. It's her number one school. She got accepted. She got her acceptance letter about a week ago. She's been accepted to
Congratulations.
about 5 schools already. So, but I think she's really leaning towards Southern right now. But we're excited for her. But we went on a college visit, so we left Friday right after school, came back on Sunday afternoon, and we just disconnected for that weekend. So because I did that, I was able to make sure that I got all the things that needed to be done, for work, so that I can dedicate my time for her and being able to do that. So productivity is really, putting things where they belong so that you have time for the other things that are important.
I love that. Putting things where they belong. You see, palabras con luz. Thank you so much. Putting things where they belong. I want to quote that. Belong. Awesome. Thank you so much, Raúl. And congratulations. You have been recently elected the Illinois Principals Association president elect.
Hmm.
Congratulations.
Thank
Kudos.
you.
Can you share with the listeners of the show what is IPA and maybe a little bit about your vision?
All right. So, Illinois Principals Association is a amazing, amazing network. It's an amazing group of people. Everything from Jason Leahy, that directs it, all the way to every person in IPA staff in Springfield. They're just amazing people, and they stay abreast of everything going on with Illinois, whether it's law, legislation, new regulations coming down. They really stay on top of it, but it's also building our community. We're over, you know, I think the IPA conference, there were over 700 administrators present, with about, I won't say close to 40 or so online. That says a lot that we have that many people, mostly pretty much almost all of it from Illinois. There's some from out of state, but typically they're all from Illinois. But IPA is an organization that really promotes, understanding the world of education and administrators in particular. And so we've been talking about the teacher shortage for the last number of years, the oncoming administrator shortage, which a lot of people are still not quite clear on, but it's here, it's on the horizon. That not too many people are going for their administrator. Even in my day, when I got my Type 75, that's what we called it back then, right? When I got my Type 75, there were maybe 26 students in our cohort. Two of us became administrators, and so and actually got a job. Actually, became actual administrators. I know of at least 3 or 4 that left the field completely after getting their 75. They didn't even stay in education at all. So that was happening back then, and now it's even worse. Programs are closing. People are just not. It's not a very enticing field that people want to jump into. So what can we do? How can we bring people into the field of education in general, but also into administration? So how can we support people? So IPA has taken that on, and that's a big challenge. But IPA has taken that on how do we bring people into the world of education and into administration, and how do we nurture that? So there's a ton of resources in IPA, from anything from for APs, for administrators. We have the AP Summit North, AP Summit South, so that assistant principals or future people wanting to become assistant principals can attend and get some insight. The principalship, of course. It's just a great organization. Not to mention all the legal and support and all the things that are available to all the members. If you're an administrator, you're not an IPA, you're really missing out. You're missing out on a lot. All the actions on the local level, like we have our DuPage County IPA group, and we do things at the local level. But at the state level, it's really impressive, all the work that happens there as well. So that's IPA in a real quick nutshell. But I encourage people, just go to the website, start browsing, become a member, check what your district. A lot of districts will pick up your membership. It's whether it's in your contract or not. Talk to your superintendent. Hopefully, you have a real awesome one like I do, and they'll pay your membership fee, and you'll be able to really benefit more than you think.
Absolutely. Amen. Thank you for sharing that. Two follow-up questions of everything that you share with us. What is, I'm sure you have a vision for what is going to be your contribution this year. Is there any way you can synthesize that for us? What is maybe one or two things you want to be able to accomplish?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of things that I have in mind, and we have a meeting coming up very soon in IPA to start talking and planning for next year. Because part of my charge as president-elect is that I start planning next year's conference, and so don't want to get too many things out of the hat. But for your listeners, I'll give you a little sneak peek. But I'm looking at how do we create opportunities. Because when I look at my life and I look at the things that I've been able to do, it's because someone gave me a chance. So, and not only showed me where the door is, because we got plenty of people that'll show you where the door is. We got plenty of people that say, if you just do your homework, if you just do good in school, you'll be able to do this, this, and this. I have people that not only did that, but also opened the door and at times kicked me through the door, to take that opportunity and push me in that direction. And so sometimes you go screaming and hollering and screaming and, do I really want to do this? Yes, you do. And so how do we create opportunities in today's world for kids? Because if we're not creating those opportunities, we can tell them that exists. We can tell them that if you do this X, Y, and Z, you can get W. You can do all those things and you say it, but if we don't actually open the door for them and kind of nudge them in, they're going to miss out. Some kids will not walk through without some extra support. So especially now that we were so disconnected for in the past, year or so. Now we really have to show kids what that door looks like. Open the door and nudge them in there so that they can take advantage. So what opportunities are we creating? Because if we're not creating those opportunities, we're going to miss out. A real good example is our principal of the year at his school. Amazing work that they're doing. They created all these different avenues for kids to take, that when they leave high school, they can literally get a job in plumbing, electrical, auto mechanic. They have all these courses in the high school so that kids that, college is not for them, they're looking at careers. But are we just saying go get a career on your own? No, they're going to show you how to get that career. And so if you want to be a mechanic, you want to work in carpentry, we got some connections with local industry, and we're going to create those opportunities at the high school, and you finish your internship and get that job at 40, 50, $60,000 a year right out of high school. I'm like, if that's for you and that's what you want to do, go for it. And here's your career. And so, but they're creating those opportunities. They're opening the door, putting a kid in front of the door, and maybe just kicking them in so that they take advantage of that. So that's the kind of stuff we need to see statewide. We need to see that for every kid everywhere.
Beautiful. That's an awesome approach. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. Not only showing the door, but also ensuring that they get in and get in properly, right? Awesome. So if you had a magic wand and you can redesign the new Type 75 program, whatever it's called now, in this pandemic world, what are one or two things you will make sure that the new Type 75s or principals need to know before they start?
Magic wand. Wow, that'd be cool, right? Uh,
Yeah.
I think it's being able to do um, some sort of a real life internship, almost like student teaching,
Mm.
that we get, you know, prospective teachers come in and actually take over for a short period of time. I had one of my teachers actually do his internship at one of our elementary schools. He was a teacher at my school, awesome guy. But Mr. Bracco, part of his school, they have like a grant that they basically paid for the sub to take over his classroom so that he can do an internship at one of our schools for one semester. And he got some real world experience, not to mention elementary school, which he had never taught because he was a middle school guy. And so he got to do elementary school, something I've never done, and I would be terrified. So, blessing to all elementary teachers out there. You guys are amazing. You guys rock. I can't imagine doing elementary. I student taught fifth grade. That's about as low as I go. I can't go any lower. I don't know what to do. But definitely was an experience for him to see that realm and see that world. And we need more opportunities like that for our prospective administrators. They need to see grade levels that they've not gone to. Be an administrator, even if it's a pseudo situation, like a student teacher, and be able to do that even for a short period of time, even if it's just 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's something as opposed to right now, which is write a paper about this, or how would you do certain things and do some small activities, which is what most universities do because that's all you can do. But I would love to see something like that with teachers, uh, you know, get real experiences as administrators.
I love that approach, like a real hands-on experience. I think that costs money, but it would cost much less now than in the future not doing it. So
Hmm.
thank you for sharing that. Who knows? This IPA thing might lead you to do those changes in the university level. Who knows,
Right? Who
Raul?
knows, right?
Raul, this has been such a great conversation. Any last words of wisdom and productivity for the listeners of the show?
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite. It's been great to be here and, kind of stretch the legs a little bit and talking to people because, I picked up a lot from you as well, Dr. Martinez, and we'll continue working together. I'm sure we'll cross path in many ways. So continue the good work, sir. And
Absolutely.
I look forward to, connecting with you again and with anybody else that wants to join us in IPA. We'll be around.
Awesome. So if you have not joined IPA, join and enjoy all the professional learning and opportunities that they offer, especially now with President-elect Raúl Gastón. Raúl Gastón, thank you so much for being here. Gracias.
No, gracias. Un gusto.
This has been the podcast of Dr. Efraín Martinez, Wisdom and Productivity, Peace and Calm.